So it's 7 o'clock, so we may as well start. I don't know how many people will get, but this was something that I was doing last summer from about the end of July until about Thanksgiving, where every Wednesday, and of course this is Thursday, and I picked Thursday to start because it's National Drink Wine Day today. But from now on, I'll do this on Wednesdays. And we did this every Wednesday all through the summer. And at the time, what I was doing was I was identifying 1 or 2 bottles of wine from the Fine Wine and Good Spirits store, and everybody would get 1 or both of the bottles. And this is as much social as it is about the wine, so I don't want to make it too structured. On the one hand, on the other hand, we do want to interject something about the wine. And so I thought, well, since it's National Drink Wine Day, maybe what we all ought to do is just choose our own wine and tune in and tell everybody a little bit about the wine. And so that said, you know, we'll learn something about various types of wine tonight. We've got a couple of players here from New Mexico, one from down in Virginia, who just came on screen, and and the rest of us are in Pennsylvania, and I don't know if we'll have anybody from California tonight. I didn't really reach out to them and announce this, although at least one of them is a member. And by the way, any of you who are muted, you can unmute yourself because it is going to be open mic. And we'll just take turns chatting. And then in subsequent weeks, what I was thinking of doing was, well, we could do any variety of things. We can choose a wine like Chardonnay or anything else, like a region, the Rhone region, and we can all bring a wine representative of either that varietal or that region, and we'll just go around the room and talk about it. So on my screen, I have in the upper left-hand corner, if we're going clockwise, that'd be a good place to start, would be Jim. And Jim's always got some interesting perspectives on wine because he spent years and years out in California. And on the times I've been to Jim's house, we always have really good wine. So, Jim, do you want to unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about what you might be drinking tonight? Well, you're still muted.
Jim, unmute yourself.
There's a place in the lower left-hand corner of the screen that says mute, and you either and you have a red line probably going through that.
You have to move the cursor on the screen. Otherwise, the toolbar hides.
Okay, so I guess everybody's system works a little differently, but some people even have this stuff at the top of the screen. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. If you work, why don't you work on that? There's a place, there's a picture of a microphone with the word mute underneath it, and there's probably a red line going through it. And he's on an Apple system, however, so I don't know what it would look like. So Bob and Nancy, you want to tell us a little bit about what you're drinking, and we'll get back to Jim?
Okay. We're drinking a Canadian Pinot Noir.
Of course.
A number of years ago, I'm from Canada. A number of years ago, we were visiting Belleville, which is my hometown, and my sister-in-law gave me a review of this wine. It was in the Toronto Star. It's Clausen Chase. It's in Prince Edward County, which is one of the 3 VQAs in Ontario. Clausen Chase is, we probably wouldn't have gone. It's not one of my favorite wineries, but we found out at that trip that it was under new ownership. This is a 96 rated wine, according to the Toronto Star. I think they might be a little prejudiced, but it is a very nice wine. One of the things that's notable about wines from this area that is unique in New World wines is the minerality. When you're driving down Clausen Road, the limestone is right at surface level beside the road, and they've got maybe a foot or two of soil over top of the fractured limestone. This is where I grew up. It was terrible farmland, and was not nearly as much fun when we lived there. But there's all kinds of great wineries there now. So they say, well, her review is rather flowery and over the top. It's a nice wine. I don't know that I'd call it a 96. We have a friend who is a Burgundy snob, and he would call it thin, but it's still very drinkable and very nice. And Ontario and Niagara and Prince Edward County are great places for a road trip to go tasting wine if they ever open the border again.
And for those of you who don't know where Prince Edward County is, if you look at a map of Lake Ontario, there's a peninsula near the center of the lake that jumps down into the lake. And it's really an island because a canal cuts across the northern portion of it. And it's located directly north of Rochester, New York. So you go to Rochester and just go across the lake north, and that bump in the lake is called Prince Edward County.
So it is entirely surrounded by water. So it gets the moderating effects of the lake. But growing wine grapes there is not easy. They cut the canes back every year and bury them. So if they have a wet spring, they're in trouble because they have to be able to get into the fields and unbury the canes, or they don't have a crop.
Yeah, this is an interesting area to grow grapes because you literally have to bury the canes at the end of the season. Otherwise, you lose everything. And there have been very wet springs, and they couldn't get the canes out of the ground, let alone walk in the field.
Do you know how many acres they have?
I don't know how many acres Clausen Chase has. It's a little bit bigger. Our favorite winery, which is just down the road from them, is called the Old Third. And it's called the Old Third because Clausen Road used to be the third concession. And they typically do a barrel. That's all they have. And it's interesting because we've been going to these wineries since they were new and gotten to know some of these people. They were all young and ambitious and starting out and all wanting to do fine wine and blah, blah, blah. And now they're a little older and now they want to make some money. So they're, the Old Third does, they have turned their barn into a party room as well as doing the wine, and they also do cider. And the winemaker's grandfather made Calvados in France. There's a really nice sparkling wine winery, again, on the other side of Clausen Chase. And they do the Champagne method, Prosecco method. They do all kinds of different sparkling wines. Well, they've now branched out into beer. So they've got more opportunity to make money. So the romance is gone. The practicality of the hard work has reared its head.
It's like the former winemaker down at Nestle Vineyards in Bainbridge once made the statement that we make profit, then we make wine. So I see another person ready to admit into the room. Okay. Well, and the wine itself is, tell us a little bit about the wine now that you told us about the winery.
Claus and Chase, Churchside Pinot Noir. The most notable thing is the minerality is unique for a New World wine. It is light compared to a Burgundy. It's very drinkable. It's very nice wine. Berries, raspberries on the nose. It's, I know what it's supposed to taste like because I have the review and she's very flowery about it. Well, again, like here, when you're going to a small winery, it's not cheap. It was $40 a bottle. Although it's Canadian dollar, and Canadian dollars aren't worth that much right now.
I know Pinot Noir is a cool climate grape, but that's pretty cool up there. So
Yeah, that's why they have to bury the canes. That's a lot of work. So none of the wineries in the county are that big. But there are some where there's some significant money behind them and lots of hired help. But the smaller ones are the ones that are more fun to visit, more interesting.
I have a friend up in Montreal, works at a winery, and they have to bury them every year. Actually, yeah, that's
In the Eastern Township of Montreal. I used to live in the Eastern Townships above New York and Vermont.
I see. This reminds me of how the Italians in this country bury their fig trees every year.
Yeah.
So
we tasted in the Eastern Townships years and years ago, and we bought a bottle of sparkling cider, and this very sweet young French girl whose English was far better than my French ever was, told us that we might want to be careful when we opened it. It was a little excitable. And of course, we brought it home and put it in the cellar and forgot. We opened it and it was excitable. It just went all over the kitchen.
oh my gosh.
It was rather intense.
Wow.
But there's fun places to taste wine in Canada, and they've got for the longest time it was sort of reverse snobbery. Being from there, it was, well, it's okay for Canadian wine, but a lot of them have gotten to be quite good, and there's lots of other fun things to do and taste wine.
And it's gotten good on both coasts, both the east and west coast of Canada.
Yeah, British Columbia has a great wine growing area. I've never tasted there, and we don't see much of that in Ontario. Of course, we see none of it here. They're supporting their own wine, their unique wine area. But we've been tasting in Nova Scotia too.
I understand that the Chinese really love British Columbia wine.
No, they like Vancouver. They own Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
When Hong Kong reverted from the British back to China, Canada had kind of an open door policy. If you had $1 million to deposit in a Canadian bank, you could come live in Canada. And most of them are in British Columbia. They've totally reshaped Vancouver. It's they would buy properties, rip the house down, and build the biggest thing they can with as close to zero lot line as possible, because that's what they were used to living in. So native to Vancouver couldn't afford to live there anymore.
Wow. All right. Well, thanks, Bob and Nancy. Jim, can we go back to you?
Yes. I will try to be brief because there are so many people waiting to talk. The two Italian ones presenting here are both empty bottles. One is a Castello di Cabriano Reserva Chianti Classico. The other is from a recent tasting, the Cordero Montezumolo Barolo. This Barolo was fantastic, and I made the mistake of not following Marty's directions on this second bottle by decanting it first. And I've learned the hard way the difference between decanting a great wine meant to be decanted and drinking it straight from the bottle. Now that it's sat around for a while on the glass, it is tasting like it did before. Both are chairman's selections at the Lemoyne wine shop. And I also have a strong recommendation if you like French bread, sourdough bread. I discovered this place recently. It's called Talking Breads. It's on West Lisburn Road in Mechanicsburg. And this baguette that we had recently is among the finest French baguettes I have ever had. They do it the old-fashioned way there, and I strongly recommend those of you who like bread to visit this place. They have other stuff too, but the Barolo is almost mystical in the way you taste the nuances. It's light, and it will just make yourself so pleased with having found this. And it's not expensive. It was $37 if I recall. And has anyone else had this Barolo besides Marty?
Well, Scott, you're muted. You can unmute yourself.
Jim, I did, and I completely agree. It was really good after about 2 hours of decanting.
That was from the Piedmont tasting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I decanted it for close to 3 hours. And the amazing thing about it, I had 4 bottles of it and opened one. Since then, drank another one. Both were magnificent. And I said, gee, a 2016 Barolo. I have 41 bottles of Barolo, and that's the youngest by far I've had. Gee, I wonder if it's going to be ready. And 2 things about this wine. It was the youngest Barolo I ever drank in my life. It was the softest. I thought it was going to be really harsh, not quite ready. It was plenty ready, and it was very young for a Barolo. So I thought it was very good. And but decanting it for 2.5 hours, 3 hours, at least 2 hours would be a necessity.
All right. And are you drinking any of these tonight, Jim, by the way? You have some of the Barolo tonight?
I'm drinking Barolo, yes.
Okay.
Can you tell us the name of that again? The Barolo?
It was the one that was on, you were on the Piemonte.
Oh, okay. If it's the same one from a couple weeks ago, yeah. We didn't have that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Gary?
Good evening, everyone. Tonight I am enjoying a bottle of Russell Prayer 2017 Syrah from the Umpqua Valley
Oh, yeah.
of Oregon. Now, I'm going to try and share my screen so I can show you where that is if you're not aware of it. Oh, can't do that.
Here, let me, I can set that up. Hang on.
So it is south of the Willamette. It is south of, let me bring that up here. Okay. So I'm going to go to,
North of Medford.
correct. It's the Umpqua Valley, the Roseburg is the main area. I'm not going to be able to do it in time. So let me skip that for sharing. So Russell Prayer, well, Stephen and Gloria Russell, Reustle, came to the West Coast from New York City in 2000. They settled in Oregon, Central Oregon, about 2004, bought about 200 acres. And all of the wines that they produce there are estate wines. When I look at what they grow, it kind of sounds like they haven't picked what they want to do. They've got everything from Grenache and Gruner through to Syrah, Tempranillo, Viognier. But they seem to specialize in Syrah between both this reserve and regular stuff. And this 2017 got 91 points out of Enthusiast. It won platinum at the Northwest Wine Press Judging Best of Best. Gold at San Francisco Chronicle, gold at San Diego Wine Competition, and Los Angeles International Wine Competition. So it's one of their specialty wines, I assume. But I've had some of their others. In fact, Marty saw me buying one of their regular line Syrah at the clear out section. Their 2014 was on sale for, I think, half price at $14. So I was buying it like buying Halloween candy the day after Halloween. This one retails from the winery at $42. Last summer they were having a special on, so I had it shipped to me at a fair amount off of that. On the nose, I get violet, very soft. It is full-bodied without tannins that bite. There's clearly some smoothness that's done to it. What's interesting on the back of the label for us nerdy ones is it has the certificate of birth. It was born in September of 2017. Its parentage, 34% Syrah, 34% 877 clone with 5% Grenache. It had French and American oak treatment, a total of 18 barrels. Expected drinkability between now and 2023, and it has some food pairing ideas. We toured this place when we lived in Oregon. It was a great trip to get out of the northern part. If you have the chance to go to Oregon, after you do your time in northern Oregon, head south. If you head far enough south, you'll come to one of the finest Shakespearean festivals, and it's a great time to spend that. So this one is quite lovely. I'm enjoying it very much.
All right. What is that picture we're sharing, by the way? Are we sharing?
I never was able to bring it up on my screen, so.
Okay.
It looks like it's your screensaver for Bing.
Yeah, it's not my screensaver.
Looks like Austria.
It wasn't mine either, but okay. Barry, would you like to share what you're drinking?
Sure. And I don't have nearly the sophistication that many of you do, so I'll apologize for that in advance. But this is my last bottle of an old friend. I think this was a chairman's a few years back, Clarendon Hills. What I like about it is it's been one of my favorite wines to serve to people who sort of like wine but don't like a lot of, big, heavy, chewy cabs and things. Gary, it's very similar. It's very accessible, right? Well balanced. It's the kind of the fruit bomb that you normally get on the front end is sort of smoothed out over the years, which is kind of nice. I had 2 cases, but I've consumed them over time, mostly sharing them with friends. And I think that's part of the reason why I wanted it, is because it seems to be that wine I bring out quite often whenever I have a group of friends who are in different stages of wine enjoyment.
By the way, is that a photo of your backyard?
It is. That was today. Yeah. It's sort of a running gag at work because everybody's in different climates. We've got some people in Florida. We've got some people in California. So everybody likes to rub it in because it's 80 degrees out back and they're eating out in the back deck or whatever.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Laura and Deb, you'll have to unmute yourself. They're coming to us from New Mexico, and they've got a surprise.
Well, go ahead and pour that, Debbie. Pour yourself some. Okay. Well, after your Rioja wine tasting a couple weeks ago, I guess 10 days ago, I was obsessing about getting one of those Grand Reserve Blue Label ones at Total Wine or somewhere in town here. We live in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Oh,
But we've got about 15 or 20 inches of snow. So like some of the other ones here, we're pretty much landlocked to our house. So what we chose was just went in our cabinet. And can you guys see this? I can't see the screen now. Marty.
Can anybody? Is any?
Yeah, we can.
I'll look at us and hope
We
you
can
guys can
see
see
it.
this, but this is the wine we're gonna showcase tonight. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So those that are getting to know me from the Sunday Zooms, the first wine in the United States was in New Mexico, along the Rio Grande Valley, brought by the Catholics. They had to get their allotments from Spain periodically, and they weren't getting enough. So they were able to get some grafted and some vines from Mexico and bring them north and plant them along the Rio Grande Valley. But eventually, without adequate flood control, most of those vineyards got flooded out. So we kind of lost track of our wine industry for a couple centuries, but we're back at it now. So the wine we have is called Black Mesa, and it's a Merlot. It's 100% Merlot. And Black Mesa is located along the Rio Grande River, halfway between Santa Fe and Taos. So if you're going north, if you start north in Taos and you go south towards Santa Fe, that's the way the river flows. The river goes through a basalt gorge, and right where it opens up into a fertile valley, that's where this winery is. And the winery's been there since about 1992. So the soil is that pink, eroded, volcanic type of soil, but then there's these black basalt cliffs. And it's hot in the summertime, but we always have cool nights. And like I just said, we have about 15 inches of snow, so it's pretty wintry here too. Their elevation is about 5,700 feet above sea level, so it's a high elevation volcanic soil wine. And I guess it's somewhat new. And then they grow 6 grapes on their estate area right there in that town of Velarde. And this wine here is 100% Merlot grown right there in that location.
Interesting.
That's really.
So, and then at the winery, this is $24 a bottle. And we're a member of their wine club. They give you 25% off if you're a member of the wine club. So it's under $20 a bottle. And it's boutique. They make about 30 different wines. So they grow 6 of their own grapes. And then the rest of the grapes are sourced from around New Mexico. So their wines are 100% New Mexican. So if you're interested in ever a New Mexico wine, we really like their wine. I do have to note that I feel like their wines are generally a little bit more acidic. They're definitely more acidic than your average wine because of the high elevation. And the grapes can't necessarily sweeten as well as they do at other locations, like in California. And so they have, I guess what you call a long hang time. So they pick the grapes pretty late in the season, September-ish. And we've picked grapes with them a couple times. They're Montepulciano, which is not this wine, but we usually do that the second or third weekend of October for those. So it's pretty late. So it's a little bit different. So if you really are into wines, it's kind of interesting to try one of these higher elevation mountain wines.
Do you have any idea how many wineries there are in New Mexico?
42, I think. But that book was old, but at least 42.
I thought I read that somewhere online today.
Yeah, so and a lot of them are up and down the Rio Grande Valley. They're on the edge flanks of mountains. In southwestern New Mexico, which is flat desert, they're down there, but they drill deep water wells. And so they water the heck out of it. It's kind of more like Arizona down there. So that's pretty much, this winery's been around since 1992. It's got new owners now since 2000, but it's one of the longer running wineries. And this wine the year before, in 2014, this is a 2015 vintage, won a couple awards, and which don't mean much to me. I mean, the New Mexico State Fair, but one question I had is this Jefferson Cup Invitational. Is that anything that matters? I know all the states are invited to it. It's a USA wine competition. It doesn't have international. So anyway, so this is pretty nice. It's 100% Merlot. It's a little bit heavier, complex Merlot than usual because it's a mountain grape. And when I talked to the guy there, he says it kind of drinks like a Cabernet. So I would agree with that. It's kind of fruity noted, some softer tannins. What do you think, Debbie?
Good taste. I don't know. I can't really taste the berries, but they're in there.
It's kind of a darker color. It's not bright. It's not a thin wine. It's really satisfying. I really quite like it. It's probably one of my favorites that they make.
All right.
It's a good wine for the price.
Yeah, and for $24 or less, it's fantastic, really.
All right. Thank you, ladies. Scott, would you like to tell us what you're drinking?
Sure. By the way, I just happened to buy this bottle back in 2015, and I'll try to flip this over here and see if it works. Can you see that? I don't know if you can. Anyway, I'll move the bottle. I bought this back in 2015 for a Wine Society event I had, Bella Italia, Friday evening, April 24th, 2015 at the Hilton, downtown Harrisburg. And this was my Super Tuscan entry. And I bought it of all places at Blue Mountain Commons. And, yeah, it was a bit of a trip from Lancaster County, but since Blue Mountain Commons is the wine mecca of central Pennsylvania, I went up there and bought several bottles. I bought, well, a gang. We had 64 people there, so I guess I bought 6 bottles for the event, and then I bought another 6 for my wife and I, and it was magnificent then. This is my last bottle. So my wine glass here was diluted with tears streaming down my face and got its way into the pause. Like I said, it was a 2008, so it's 12 years old now. It was 6.5 years, then it was great. Boy, if I could have done it, I would have saved more bottles, but it was really impossible to do that. And so now this wine's 12 years old, and it is fantastic. And it's about to be totally gone. It's a Super Tuscan, which of course it's from Tuscany. Mainly red fruit, really mainly cherries, excellent complexity. This wine is 12 years old and it could have gone on, by the book, it could have gone on for another 5 years. And it happens to be 80% Sangiovese, 10% Cabernet Sauvignon, 10% Merlot. And when the 2 minority wines there, of course, Tuscany and Sangiovese are, coterminous almost. But it wasn't until I went to Tuscany and we had the wine tour was called Tuscan Treasures. We got around all over the place there. And most of the Super Tuscans were a Sangiovese Cabernet Sauvignon blend, Merlot. Some were 100% Cabernet Sauvignon, some were 100% Merlot. And Cab and Merlot just love Tuscany and vice versa. They grow extremely well there. And the Italians, back when the Italian wine authorities, they call Cab and Merlot foreign grapes. Of course, the French don't call them foreign grapes, but the Italians call them foreign grapes. And if you use them to that extent, you cannot call your wine a DOCG or even a DOC. It has to be an IGT. And the Super Tuscan masters, they cared about making the best wine possible. They weren't involved. They didn't care about traditional Italian wine law. So they started making this magnificent wine, the Super Tuscans, a couple of decades ago or more. And they use a lot of Cab and Merlot. And the list price of this wine back in early part of 2015 was $52 a bottle. But only in Pennsylvania, with the chairman's selections, it was $27.99 a bottle. And when I bought it at Blue Mountain Commons, I should have worn a ski mask and had a pistol, although that probably would have upset some of your staff up there, Marty, because at $27.99, this was a steal, just a little over half price. And it's just a magnificent wine. It's produced by Rocca della Meche, who a lot of you would remember. Matter of fact, their lesser wines, which were still very good, your everyday wines, had a red label and a black label, and the black label was superior. And we're talking about on the steel shelves of your standard state stores, wine and spirit stores across the Commonwealth. But Sir Givetto, which is the name of the wine, you could only find that in the premium wine stores. And hopefully the system will be getting some more of this wine, of course, a later vintage, because I'm looking forward to buying lots and lots of it again. And by the way, the food pairing, this wine was excellent with, and this is one for Jim to think about. He was talking about the bread shop earlier. Tomato basil bread, crostini, with red and green bell peppers, onions, and Italian sausage. And it was simply beyond excellent with that. We also had it with baby gold fingerling potatoes with, hey Patty, I mean, what? I mean, I know it like my middle name. What is my middle name? Anyway, what the herb you put on the potatoes? Rosemary. Absolutely, rosemary, and which the Italians love. And matter of fact, the Beesons had used to have at least a big rosemary bush in the front of their house. My wife, when she was tempted to next time bring the head shears and some large containers, and we were thinking about taking a couple of pounds home with us, but we never did that.
It's not there right now.
It's not there right now?
No, it's
That's too bad.
resting.
Well, we'll be sure to leave the head shears at home then. But anyway, the Italians love rosemary. I didn't realize that until we went over there, and they just love rosemary, and rosemary potatoes are a favorite there, but also here. I mean, it's growing in popularity. And this wine was just beyond excellent with all of that. We also had it, by the way, with pancetta on French bread. So it was just good with everything, a great food wine, a magnificent sipping wine. And this is it. This is it for the case I bought. So anyway.
Well, our but you're drinking it on National Drink Wine Day, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, and fitting it should go out with a bang, I guess.
There you go. Thank you, Scott. So
Thank you.
Next up, we have Mary Alice and Seth Durr. Oh my God, she says. So now, who's going to do the talking?
I'll talk. She's not going to talk.
How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Long time no see.
Yeah. So we have a Firehouse Red from Tamarick Cellars in the Columbia Valley. This is 2015.
All right.
And I only know what the internet tells me about it because it's the first time we ever had it. And I think she just kind of picked it at random.
Yeah, Seth said he wanted a blend.
Yep.
So
I
wandered around the store for a while.
It says that it is crushed gently and dropped into 1.5 ton bins, cold soaked 24 to 48 hours, and inoculated with a variety of yeasts, hand punched and pressed directly to barrel where the wine finishes both primary and secondary fermentation. Only after 1 year in barrel do the individual lots of wine that compose the Firehouse Red get blended. And it's pretty tasty, as is tradition. I didn't like it at first, but I do now.
And what are the grapes?
The grapes are.
It's cabs.
Hold on, I got a good. It's 29% Merlot, 26% Cab Sauv, 22 Syrah, 11 Cab Franc, 3 Sangiovese, 2 Malbec, 2 Petit Verdot, 2 Grenache, 2 Mourvedre, and 1 Counois.
What was that last one?
Counois? Counois? I don't know. I'm trying to sound French.
The better part of this is, what are you guys eating? You always have these great
Indian food.
reports.
Well, so I liked it right away because I was tasting dinner while I was making it. So we're having butter chicken and lamb vindaloo. So I think it goes well with spicy food.
Wow. And for any of you who are local, by the way, Mary Alice has a business on the side, the Cupcake Equation. And she makes the most magnificent creations and actually has gone to wineries and done cupcake and wine pairing events.
Interesting.
And breweries.
What was that?
And breweries, if anyone likes beer.
Oh, you've done them at breweries too?
Yep.
Wow, interesting. If you look, is your page Cupcake Equation? Is that the name of it?
Yes. Yes.
For those of you who are on Facebook, look up Cupcake Equation, and you'll see some of the most magnificent creations. Incredible. So, and keep
Thank you, Martin.
an eye out for her sales. So anyway, all right, guys, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
Christine, are you ready?
Oh, sure.
That's, are you? Okay, go ahead.
I'm sure. Tonight's blend is actually not a blend. It's from, too many shiny things here. Valhalla Estate Winery, located right outside of Roanoke, Virginia. Yes, I'm the Virginia person here tonight. It actually is a mountain vineyard overlooking the Roanoke Valley. And tonight's wine is Alicante Bouchet. And it is a very dark red. That's what it's known for. And I believe it's because both the skins and the flesh are red. It originated in France, but it's mostly grown now in Portugal. And according to the Valhalla website, this is the only winery that makes it in the East Coast. So, and it pairs very well with high fat contented food. I've had it with prime rib, which is excellent, and with salty food as well. So that helps it mellow this out. It only has 12.9% alcohol in it. So it was a very enjoyable glass of wine.
So it's on the higher acidic side and tannic side. And go ahead.
It's rather mellow in that aspect, especially if you've had some fatty food.
Oh yeah, that would definitely mellow it out. And the comment that Christine made about the flesh, the pulp actually of the grape being dark. Most wine grapes have essentially white pulp. And the color for red wines typically comes from the skins. But the Alicante Bouchet is, which has been around for a long time, since the mid 1800s, is one of about 12 families of grapes, wine grapes, that just a handful of wine grapes that have dark pulp, which is again the reason why it's such a dark wine. There's a French word for it. I think it's teinturier. Separavi, Chambersan, a couple other grapes like that. Same thing, very dark flesh. So, what are you eating with it tonight, Chris?
Leftover prime rib.
was that by any chance with the blue cheese crust?
Yes, in fact, you're right. Yes.
Funny about that. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Lynn and Bill, we can't see you, but who's going to do the talking?
We have a French wine from the Rhone. It's Nicolas Perrin. It's a Cruz Hermitage, and Bill will tell you about it. Here's Bill.
It's from the northern Rhone. It's from the left bank of the Rhone River. The northern Rhone tends to be much higher elevation than the southern Rhone. The southern Rhone is more flat and plain-like. It's 100% Syrah. This tastes nothing at all like an Australian Shiraz. You'd never guess they're made from the same grape. When I decanted it 2 hours before we tasted it, and it's still getting better with air. But when I decanted it, it was like getting hit in the face with a raspberry pie. The red raspberry aroma was just so incredibly strong. But when you taste it, you get a bit of that red raspberry on the mid palate. And then after that, you get red currant and black raspberry, maybe blueberry. And it finishes very, very clean and tannic. What do you think, Lynn? What would you say about that?
And there's a lot of black pepper.
Yeah.
After another hour.
Yeah, that's and a hint of smoke too, since it's Syrah. That's what some of but that's the smoke doesn't come in until long after everything else is gone. It's like at the end of the finish. This is extremely mineral and has plenty of acidity, but everything is just incredibly well balanced. They use a cold cold soak before they do the maceration, and I think that really shows in the way it preserves all this fresh fruit. I mean, this is a 2013, and the fresh fruit just jumps out of there. It's they really did a fantastic job. Do you want to tell about the food?
They recommend it with grilled anything.
No, I meant our food.
Oh, our food. Our food was Italian.
Hey! We really need a visual aid here. Could you show us a picture of the bottle?
Oh,
yeah, give us a second.
yeah, give me a second.
And our Italian was white sauce pizza, a highly herbed chive, basil, fennel, white sauce pizza with artichokes, shrimp, and or the alternate pizza was the same sauce with mushrooms. Let me bring up a video here. Hang on.
Wait. No rosemary on any of that?
No rosemary.
No rosemary.
No.
Then you know Jim's not going to sleep tonight until you show us your.
Until we show him the bottle. So here's. Ooh. Take the bottle, please.
Oh.
We're juggling a cat as well, so bear with us.
Show us the cat. Everybody loves pictures of cats.
Yeah.
It says, it's my lap time. What are you doing on Zoom?
This wine is the tasting notes and said this, and I completely agree. It's a bright ruby red. You just can't believe how red it is. This has no resemblance to the garnet wines and the darker wine, French wines that you're used to, more like a Bordeaux. This is really, really red. It says the bouquet is like a bowl of red fruit, and the mouth shows a rich, balanced, and concentrated wine. I agree with that.
What'd you do with the bottle, dude? They want to see the bottle.
Oh, the bottle again? Oh, this, by the way, this is from a state store. I don't know which one or when. And I think it was $21.
Yep, $21.99.
Don't have a date on that, but
Come on.
this is a really, really good wine.
All right, the bottle's not working.
Was this an archaeological find in your cellar?
It was.
Yeah, kind of.
He decided today, since I sent him for something French or Spanish, he decided it was time to sort the international rack. And that's how it was discovered.
And
Was
I'll
it
tell you
good?
what, for the rest of you that don't know this, they were going to have a Margot this evening.
Yeah.
From Bordeaux, but decided to leave it sit because they can age for upwards of 60 years. So it wasn't time. It wasn't time.
There's a nice review here from the Wine Advocate. It says, cassis, crushed rocks, spice, black raspberry, and subtle underbrush all emerge from this full-bodied, seriously endowed 2013. Possessing noble purity, solid freshness, and a great finish, it too will have upward of a decade of longevity.
Wow.
I'm a country girl. I definitely got the underbrush.
I have another bottle, so we'll see how that'll age.
Nothing like crushed rocks and subtle underbrush.
Oh, I know. That's exactly the two things I look for.
Now you're talking about what I had for dinner.
Oh my God. All right. Well, thanks, guys, and thanks for putting yourselves on under the lens. So I guess I should probably then throw in what I've got here.
In case both of you are in bed, it's nice of you to put clothes on.
All right. Yeah, there's that book that Christine has. It's called A Year Without Pants, and it's referring to the past year of the pandemic with, everybody working from home, and all you have to do is dress from the waist up.
Right.
I brought my pajamas and slippers.
There you go. There you go.
I did take a shower.
Why not be comfortable?
So I have a bottle of, so the week before the shutdown in March of last year, I was at the Eastern Winery Expo. And of course, the first evening there, and it's, I have no way of determining the answer to this question, but I often wonder how many people may have come away from that event with COVID. And I know an awful lot of the people there, and we've chatted back and forth, and it was just all the East Coast wineries, the whole way actually to the Midwest, out to Wisconsin and Missouri, and even down into Texas and Oklahoma. And so the first night we were there, we had this enormous wine tasting event, and all the best wines from that whole area. So in other words, the best wines of almost every place except from maybe some of the mountain states and the West Coast, and some of the maybe like the Southwest. And there was a particular red wine there from a winery called Hudson Chatham, which at the time was owned by a fellow with whom I'm friends, who has since sold the winery so he could pursue other things. And he had actually 3 different award-winning wines, red wines, made with the French-American hybrid grape Baco Noir, BACONOIR.
Yeah.
And which they grow actually a lot of this over in France, although they'll never tell you that. And it was, for those of you that may or may not know this, French-American hybrid grapes, they were developed, we started hybridizing over in France, but with American grapes and European grapes. Somebody, or a lot of different people, took American grapes over to France and started making hybrid grapes. Of course, that screwed up everything, because the American grapes, which were resistant to phylloxera, which is this little aphid, they took that aphid to France and almost ruined the entire European wine industry. And until they finally figured out that they could graft European grapes onto American rootstock, because American rootstock is impervious to these little aphids. And as it turns out, that saved the European wine industry. So from all that comes a lot of different French American, what they call French American hybrid grapes. And Baco Noir is one of them. And I remember back in the 70s into even the early 80s, they had held out a lot of hope for the Baco Noir grape as being a grape that would become, would reach some prominence in the East Coast. It really never did reach the significance that a lot of people thought it would. And then I think, like a lot of things, it ended up getting replaced by European grapes when Eastern wine growers finally figured out how to grow European grapes in the United States. And since then, a lot of the French American hybrid grapes have had to take a back seat. But up in New York, in the that area where Rip Van Winkle was, I'm trying to remember.
Hudson Valley?
Yeah, the Hudson Valley, exactly. It can get a little cool up there too, but at any rate, so the Hudson Chatham Winery does really well nonetheless with these Baco Noir grapes. And these wines, I'm led to believe, and I have a half dozen bottles, well, I had a half dozen bottles, I think I have 3 left after tonight, can age quite a long time. They've got some acid on them, but not unduly so. It's but would probably be reminiscent of an old world or European wine. And I get a lot of cherry on the palate when I drink this wine. And like I said, it was a big award winner for them. It's only 12% by volume, so they're not getting a lot of sunlight or heat in that area to grow these grapes. It's a 2017 vintage, and it'll keep because of the acid. And like I said, it's not the acid isn't over the top or anything. But it is an old world style. So I liked it, and which is why I bought it. I liked it when I tasted it at the Eastern Winery Expo because I hadn't really tasted a lot of Baco Noir over the years that I really liked. And so I hadn't actually bothered to taste any for a long time. And last March, the fellow that I know was telling me about this. He says, "You should really taste my award-winning one." And so I did, and I was like, gosh, that's pretty good. So anyway, that's what I'm drinking tonight.
Can you
Marty, if I may?
What?
show us a picture of the bottle, Marty?
If this will show up on the camera, it's just a simple label, just a black and white label, and it's actually autographed. I don't know if this is the owner's. I was trying to determine who autographed this bottle. Could be the winemaker and the assistant winemaker. Could be the former owner. So I'll have to ask that question because I never noticed before that it was actually autographed. But at any rate, pretty nice.
Marty?
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
if I may?
Go.
Once in my life, I had a bottle of 100% Baco Noir. And we got it at a shop in downtown McMinnville, right on the main drag. And an older woman, heck, she was well into her 70s, owned the shop and had a small winery. And she grew Baco Noir, among other things, including Pinot Noir. And so we had some there and liked it and bought a bottle, brought it back home with us and drank it. And it was pretty good. It was Argan Baco Noir, I think the McMinnville AVA. And it was pretty good. I had never heard of it before she poured for us.
Baco Noir does extremely well in the Niagara Peninsula in Canada. Perfect weather for that grape.
Well, sounds like a cool climate grape then.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Very hearty wine.
The first time I tasted it, they described it as rustic. And it was like lamb curry, beef stew, it's something that really needs to be paired with the right food. But we had a bottle from Prince Edward County a couple of weeks ago that was,
Fabulous.
yeah, it was lovely. But we can't go back to the county right now. I need some more.
Well, the Oregon Baca Noir, well, it sounded like yours was heavier. The Baca Noir was kind of on the borderline, I think, maybe over the line and full body, but kind of on the line between medium bodied and full bodied. But that might be Oregon, the McMinnville area in the Willamette Valley, North Willamette Valley.
All right. Well,
Jim?
it is go ahead. Somebody wanted to say something?
Yeah,
Jim, Bill wants to talk baguettes with you.
yeah, we've been getting the Talking Breads baguettes at Radish and Rye on 3rd Street, frozen, because they don't sell them fresh. And you heat them up in your oven, and I'll tell you that it tastes like you just baked it yourself. They are incredible.
Wow. All right, for everybody that's local, we'll all have to try that. And so in keeping with how I originally promoted this, we were gonna do this for an hour, and it's actually an hour now. So unless anybody has any further comments, we'll shut it down till next time. And maybe I should ask before we leave, does anybody have a preference in how we approach this? Should we do a varietal next week, or should we do a region? Or I was actually thinking at some point we might all do, although we might all choose grapes that are not from the noble grape, group. In other words, the noble grapes are, the Cab and the Merlot and the Riesling. There's half a dozen of them, and there are hundreds and hundreds of other grapes from which we could choose. So
we're hearing from Mary Alice.
Mary Alice?
I see the name Mary Alice.
Yeah, that's Mary Alice and Steph. Do you guys have a preference?
Oh, we don't care.
Just as long as there's great food to go with.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. If there's booze and food, we're in.
There you go.
We're willing to follow
Hey,
your
Mar-
lead.
What's that, Nancy?
We're willing to follow your lead.
All right.
Marty, yeah, I'm all in favor of the uncommon grapes. There aren't dozens of them. There's thousands of them.
That's really true, especially if you start noodling around some of the East Coast.
Oh yeah.
But even if you don't do that, there are. I have a chat here. What's the chat say? It
The
says
first time I've ever had elderberry wine was near Erie.
That sounded great. And it was awful.
Maybe sometime we'll even do fruit wines. So we Italy.
No, please.
Italy has 25% of the world's wine grapes. I mean, they, which is why we don't have such outstanding predominant wines from Italy, like France, for instance. They limited the number of grapes, but they made them really special. Italy just has a plethora of special grapes, and so, for instance, there's Vermentino, Verdicchio. They're a couple of my favorites from the part of Italy. Arnaise is another.
Yay, Arnaise.
I love Arnaise, and
yeah,
of course, then many reds. They have many whites and reds throughout Italy. So there's no end to the number of grapes we could pursue. So if everybody is agreeable to that, we could do the lesser known grapes the next time around, and choose choose a grape of lesser renown. And they're in the store, believe it or not. They're in the liquor store, the Fine Wine and Good Spirits, and I'm sure you can find them out in New Mexico.
And my cellar.
What's
You
that?
did say Arnaz, right? We could have an Arnaz.
Oh, sure. That's,
Oh, yeah.
Good. Excellent.
yeah, that's one of my favorite. So
Mine-
Debbie in New Mexico is
me
gonna
too.
do the Concord grape.
oh, there you go. There's always one. There's always one in the crowd, right?
Hey, Marty.
I'll tell you what you could do down there in New Mexico. Over in Oklahoma and Texas and stuff, they're doing a lot of things with Vitis estivalis, which is an American grape that
That sounds like an ice skater. Can you send us that in email or a text or something?
yeah, I'll send it to you. But when I was at the Eastern Winery Expo, I was floored. There were some people there from Texas, I believe it was, that were making some incredible, really full, rich, full-bodied, rich reds from, of all things, Vitis estivalis, and they were also making some dessert wines, some fortified wines from Vitis estivalis. The only Vitis estivalis that I've ever known about before that was, if you've ever heard of Cynthiana, or sometimes it's called Norton. It's a grape that was developed in the 1840s in the United States, and they're really still not sure what the parentage is, but they know half of it is Vitis estivalis. And it's difficult to grow, and I've actually never met a Norton that I liked, but that's another thing. So,
Hey, Marty.
yes.
Would it be possible to, either for this one or the next event, to actually share pictures of labels? Because there was a couple of wines there I'd really love to kind of bookmark to try.
Yeah, we could share the screen. Everybody, if everybody takes photos and then puts them on PowerPoint, we could certainly do that. Or, you know, like for the next occasion, we can do that. Yeah. So, all right. All right.
Email the photos in advance. I can put them in one PowerPoint.
All right. So if everybody,
That's a great idea.
I'm sure everybody has my email. So if you want to take those photos, are we going to do this for the wines from tonight, or are we going to do this for the wines for the next occasion?
Oh, I can do both.
All right. All right. Well, that means everybody will have to, the next occasion is a Wednesday. So we have 6 days to do all this fancy stuff.
Marty, did we send it to you or to Lynn?
Well, well, either one. Everybody, I know everybody on here has my email. So, if they want to send it to me, then they can do that. And I can pass it along to Lynn.
Or I'll put my email in the chat.
Actually, you know what? Everybody here is a member except Mary Alice and Seth, and I know they probably have my email. They can reach me on Facebook as well. So,
We have your email.
okay, all right, good. So,
Good.
yeah, either way. All right, I'll leave it either way. You can send those to Lynn, or you can send them to me, and I'll get them to Lynn. And we can take photos of tonight's labels as well as the upcoming event, and we'll do other than the noble grapes for the next one. We'll try to stay away from, like I said, the cabs, the merlots, stuff like that, the Rieslings, the shards, and so forth. What's that? Oh, that was an echo. All right, crowd. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you,
Thank
Marty.
you, Marty, for having us.
Great.
Marty, it's
Talk to
Lynn.
you. See you next week.
Cheers.
Salute a tutti. Salute a tutti.
There you go.
There we go.
Fabulous as always.
Na zdrowie.
Zdrowie.